Welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb, where each week we use the stories and journeys of other successful business owners to motivate, inspire, and empower you to become the next breed of successful entrepreneurs. This week on the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast, I speak with Kim Barrett from Your Social Voice. Kim is a Facebook marketing expert, and if you're looking to bring in more clients or customers to your business, then Facebook marketing is definitely an avenue that you should look into. Kim also runs Certified Ballers, which is an entrepreneurial venture bringing in guest speakers from all over Australia to talk about how to become an entrepreneur and how to become a better entrepreneur. He also runs his online Mastermind course, the Mastermind Mogul, and he also is the host of the Kim Barrett Show with guests such as Pete Evans, Grant Cardone, and Mark Boris. Kim Barrett from Your Social Voice, welcome to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, my man. Really appreciate it.
It's an absolute pleasure. So I've reached out to you, Kim, because when I first started the podcast, I started Googling Perth entrepreneurs because I wanted to reach out to more people that I could learn from and to find out what other entrepreneurs were doing in Perth. And your name was one of the first things that popped up. And it's like what you do with social media marketing is very, very interesting. And I'd love to dig a little bit deeper into that during this podcast, if that's okay with you.
Sounds good.
So Your Social Voice, can you give us a bit of a background on what it does?
Yeah, for sure. So we've just literally hit our 5th birthday in January this year. So we specialize in helping business owners to focus on doing what they do best, because no one started their business to do, unless you're like us, like marketing, accounting, bookkeeping, sales, legal, client delivery. You just wanted to help your clients with what it is that you do. So for us, we think if we can help install a marketing system into someone's business so that at least that part's taken care of for them, then they can spend more time just focusing on their customers and clients. So we take care of, from a full done for you service or from a training perspective, helping people install those marketing systems into their business.
Yeah, right. So how did all this come about then? How did you establish Your Social Voice?
So I had been doing online marketing for about 16 years now, but where am I now? Yeah, about 16 years. So over time, I went to university, studied, and I thought I was going to become a management consultant or something like that, and didn't realize how ridiculously competitive it is when you come out of university and there's like 500 other people with the same degree as you.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I need to kind of figure out something else here. So I went into a few companies and did bits and pieces of marketing and management, and just decided that wasn't really for me. And then at one point, one of my brother-in-law, who also has been on your podcast, I think, Calvin,
yep,
started a business, and he's like, we're going over to Melbourne. They've been doing stuff in Perth. We don't know how to attract an audience there. I was like, well, look, I've been doing this Facebook advertising stuff for my business that my brother and I had. We did sold supplements.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I know how to do it. So if you want, I can do it for you guys. And then we set that up and started running ads for him, and worked with him for about a year, and helped him grow that up and leverage that within his business.
Yep.
And worked quite nicely. And then from there, I was like, well, I don't really want to again work in another company. I'd rather have my own business kind of set up. And so then that's when I went on to then start Your Social Voice, so that I could have that leverage that was something of my own that I could go out and grow and talk about and do as well.
Yeah, nice. So Calvin Coyle was the sort of test dummy for it all when it all started.
Yeah, exactly. He let me use his money to test things out, which is good. So got a free testing. What
sort of results is Calvin getting currently?
At the moment, he's getting really good results. But I mean, the result that we got at that time as well, that we took him from like 0 to $1 million in 10 months. Let's say it was a collaborative team effort there, but that was all through Facebook ads. Like, wasn't really much else that drove that at the time. So Facebook ads and funnels was really what we focused on for that, and put a big chunk of money into it, but it did come off and work quite nicely. So the payoff was good, and then he's still doing really well with it now, and that's still, I think, his main source of lead flow is Facebook.
Yeah, when I had Calvin on the podcast, he actually said he was doing at some months $1 million a month.
Yeah, in sales. And it's like especially when obviously at the moment we're recording this is kind of COVID and all that sort of fun jazz. So when you're doing big live events and you've got a couple hundred people in the room, like, those things are well and truly possible. It becomes a lot harder when you've got to do all of that just digitally. It becomes a lot harder these days.
Yeah. So with what sort of money did Calvin need to spend to be turning over $1 million a month? Do you need to put $1 million in to get $1 million back, or is there a better return on investment there?
If that was the case, I don't think many of us would necessarily do it if it was a break-even return. And I can't speak exactly for his numbers because it's kind of his stuff is always a flow-on effect. But for me, like, and any entrepreneur putting money into Facebook, it's like my goal is to try and get at least, and like ours as our company is to get 5 times. So we put $1 in, we try and get $5 back is our goal. In the programs where we train people, the average that we have in that program, which is called our mogul system, is 17 times. So 17 times return on investment on that one. But it all just comes down to that flow on effect, because if you look at, like someone like Calvin's business is very different because you've got people in a live event that you've spent money on getting them in somewhere else. And then they come into an event and then they're onto another event. So it kind of doesn't really correlate just exactly like dollar to dollar.
Yeah.
But for anyone else out there, it depends on your business model. But I would always say like you should probably look for, I won't say probably, but like it depends on your scale, profit and whatnot. Because for some people, putting $1 in and getting $1.10 back is going to be tremendous and they'll spend as much as they can. Other people, it might need to be 2, 4, 5, 10 times. So, we have someone that just started, we try to do a bit of help with, and they have a physical product over this last period of time with Corona, and we were able to do $1 to $10 for them. So $1 in, about $10 out, but they needed it because it's a physical product. There's postage. If it was only $1 to $2, they would be losing money, even though they're making sales. So it's like you've always got to make sure you take those margins into consideration.
Right. So when you say you can get 17%, 17 times return on investment, that's not 17%. That's 17 times the investment that goes in.
Yeah, so $1 in, 17 out. So 17x, not 17%. Because again, otherwise that's for a lot of businesses that probably doesn't cover the cost. So, but that's why it's so important to know numbers, right? And not every business is the same. Like for us, even in our business, if we were even probably 2 or 3 times, that's actually still not bad, and we'll still be profitable at that point. But it's just like our target and our minimum set is 5. And look, I'd love to, like, our goal this year is to drive that up to 10 for us internally. But that's that's just our goal and focus. But we have some clients that do tremendously well. People in new home sales and things like that, their returns are ridiculous. Like we had a client one time just in April do 7 new homes. So it's like, that is that return that month is going to be ridiculous. Like it's just crazy.
Yeah. Exciting. So I know sales and marketing is the lifeblood of any business. And there's a lot of business owners that we speak to that are just proud as punch that all their work is through referrals and word of mouth. What are they missing out on by doing Facebook marketing? And will this work for your sort of tradesmen and your smaller businesses that offer services rather than a product?
Yeah, like the service based is, we don't normally work with any products. Ours is pretty much all service or service based. Generally, people that are willing to have a phone conversation with people is kind of our goal and our target market that we're looking for. We just happened to do some of them recently as a give back to a couple of people just to try and help out. So, it can work for almost anyone as long as you know your niche. You know what the offer is and you know what the copy is and you know how to articulate that. It can work. It just needs to be refined and really kind of massaged. And that's why sometimes people it takes a bit of time. Like I'm not going to say that Facebook is a magic wand and you wave it and suddenly you've got millions of dollars in the bank. By no means is that even anything that I would say to anyone. But if you can think about going, cool, I'm willing to invest to figure out the best way to bring leads into my business, because if you look at word of mouth and referrals, they are great. And by all means, we also use them too, but it's not predictable. So if you're happy where you are, then it's like, cool, you don't need to put on paid advertising if you don't want to grow. And that's some people's situation, which is cool. But if you want to grow, the only way to do it predictably, because I can't call you every day, Neil, and be like, hey, Neil, can you give me 2 more referrals? But man, I just gave you 2 referrals. What do you mean yesterday? And it's like, no, can you give me another 2 referrals today, please? Like I need them to grow my business. It's not possible to do that. or go, Neil, can you please just at least tell 10 people about me today, word of mouth, like just speak about me. Like, it's not possible to scale and control that. Whereas Facebook ads or any sort of paid advertising, I'll say, depending on what platform you're placing it on, at least you can be like, cool, I can turn this switch up and it will get me in front of more people because I'm spending more money. So I can go from one person seeing it to 10 people to 100 people seeing it just by switching this up. So to me, that's why, we heavily have always focused on that, because everyone's like, oh, a marketing business, where do you get all your leads from? I'm like, same places I will tell you to get them, from Facebook and Instagram paid advertising. Like, that's where 90%, and it's probably a little bit too high and it's a bit too risky. We're in the process of diversifying that, but it's 90% of our business comes from Facebook and Instagram paid advertising.
Right. And with Facebook, you can literally target the exact person that you want to target. So if you're an electrician, your adverts won't be going out in front of people that are looking for plumbers. It'll be going out for people that are looking for electricians, and you can pinpoint that person by what they're being searching on the internet or on Facebook in general.
Yeah, I mean, look, you can get pretty close with that. Like, I can't necessarily find someone who needs an electrician, because you've got to think of when someone needs an electrician is generally when something screws up. It's like, oh damn, my range hood just burnt out, or my PowerPoint's not working. So it's a little bit harder. For most trades type businesses, I always say to them, it's like, cool, you're more so going for awareness rather than specifically lead generation. It's also probably why we wouldn't take on any done for you clients in the trades, because for them, most of them, it's got to be that you've got to be in front of them, and it's just top of mind awareness, where it's like, cool, someone needs you now. They remember you because they just saw you. Your ad just popped up and it happened to be at the right time. Or you've added them to your database because you provide some value to them, and then they go, oh, I remember getting an email from Neil's Plumbing Services. I'm going to hit them up. So you can still get in front of them. But I mean, the specificity that you can use is really quite high. And obviously you can tie into things like, the suburbs that they live in. You can't really tie into income levels anymore. You used to be able to, but you can still do some things where it might be like, well, I think people that have this sized house would be interested in this sort of brands, follow this sort of person, be in this sort of demographic, they would have kids or not have kids, things like that. So you can be really specific with it, but again, it's not as specific as like, cool, just like, because social media is slightly different to obviously search. So search, which would be your Googles and your YouTube, that's where it's like, cool, someone's like, I want a plumber or plumbers in Perth, then you can make a paid ad pop up on that side of things if you're using Google. But it becomes much more expensive because it's search traffic. It's like they're directly searching for it, so Google knows that's valuable. Whereas on the social side, it's like, cool, imagine like we're going around at a bar. You don't just be yelling out like, hey, I'm a plumber. Like, who wants something like this? That's not going to work. So it's like, you've got to be placing stuff in there so they go, oh, I remember seeing a sign like there that said, this guy's a plumber. Great, I'm going to go and speak to him when I need him as well. So there's a few slightly like different nuances to it. But that's what makes the game of advertising fun.
And you mentioned there that Facebook have removed some of the search criteria, so you can't search for people in a certain income bracket. You mentioned previously that you have your own Facebook contact. Is that right? So you've got someone allocated to you from Facebook, and you beta test some of their features and products so that you can give them feedback on how they're working.
Yeah.
That's pretty, that's a good place to be in, isn't it? If you've got Facebook contacting you to help them.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it all basically with Facebook, it all comes down to the scale of the spend. So with, for example, agencies like us, we have I think it's over 3 or 6 months. I can't remember their bracket, but it's like something like we've got, I'll say probably about $2 or $3 million that go through the accounts that we manage in like a 3 to 6 month period. So because of that, because we have that scale, they'll bring things to us first, because obviously they know that we can roll it out if they give us access to something, it's like, cool, we can roll it out and put a fair chunk of money through it, so that then they get, and obviously being that it's in alignment with our clients' goals, they get more feedback faster. And they go, oh wow, this product this tweak that we're doing to our ad platforms is going to work really well. Then we roll it out broader. So they kind of come to us with that. And so we're in the Facebook, from an agency perspective, has 3 tiers. You're just basically in, then there's a preferred tier, then there's a premium tier. Premium tier is we're about 60K of ad spend away from breaking through into that over the next 3 months. So we'll probably hit it because a lot of our clients are scaling up at the moment. So we'll probably push through that and get into that next bracket, which means that, we get even more support from Facebook because we are managing so much that goes into obviously through their platform.
Nice, good work. And you mentioned there that a lot of your clients are scaling up at the minute. What's the reason behind that? Because a lot of people have sort of pulled back because of the times we're in.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot of clients that are probably just in the right category of their business. And look, not all of them. Like, we've definitely had some that have been hit, like gyms and salons and things like that, where it's like, they've unfortunately had some really tough times. And don't get me wrong, some of them are coming back now at the time of recording this in 3-4 days. Gyms can have, or I'll say like boutique training facilities can have up to 18 people in there, plus, 1 or 2 coaches. So for them, there's some pretty good opportunity coming out. So, we're getting leads for them at the moment for when they relaunch for like $5 because a lot of other places aren't running anything. So we have the ability to help them. So at the moment they are scaling back up. They've been away for a little bit, but now they're scaling towards having things come in. Anyone that's doing stuff online, we've got people in property, people in investment, ourselves, people that are like business and education. They're all in the process of scaling up right now because people are spending more time on Facebook. 70% increase in use across Facebook and Instagram. So there's more people on, which means there's more opportunity. People are doing more things from home. Again, so if you do business, education, training, they've got more time potentially to consume. So they can consume content, information, and still apply it from the comfort of their own homes.
Yeah, nice. That's probably a nice segue into the next session that I wanted to talk about, because you also run a mastermind community as well, which is teaching people how to, you teach them how to do what you do. You teach them
so
their own social media marketing.
Yeah, so so as I said, we have our 2 sides, which is like we'll do it for people or we'll educate people and give them basically our systems to install. So we have the Mogul system, which we run for 12 weeks, and then our Mogul Mastermind, which we run for a year, where we work with people every 90 days. We break down their marketing strategy, what's working, what's not working. And we just literally ran that ourselves digitally for the first time. So it pretty much worked very, very well. Like to be honest, not too many hiccups, like a few little parts here and there, but we were able to fulfill on 3 days, two days of content and a day of implementation quite smoothly through using Zoom. So it was pretty effective. And so for us, and to be honest, I just like to hang out with other business owners. So, it's my own way of bringing together, 20 cool business people together all the time that we can work on business strategy ideas and then leverage that to get cool people to come in and teach and educate, not only them, but, if I'm sitting there and I'm in an event and I bring in a guest speaker to speak, I'm taking as much notes or probably more notes than the guys that are part of our group as well.
Yeah. And can you see like Zoom communication and online platforms like you've just mentioned there, can you see that being the future, or do you want to go back to the sort of room-based training so that you've got that connection with people?
I like hanging out with people, like especially for at that level, like we're pretty specific about who we let in, more about just the personality of person. So I was like hanging out with people and having, a glass of wine or beer after a big day of education and just spitballing, which is always good fun. But one thing that we discovered with Zoom is that, and obviously because for Zoom, they went from 20 million users a day to 200 million users a day. So they've had to develop their platform quite quick to make sure that it's robust to hold out. But they have a feature in there called breakout rooms. So we have we ran it, we had the main Zoom room, and then I could create several breakout rooms. So I could be like, cool, Neil, Kim, Pete, you're in this room, you're talking about this. Send you guys into a separate room that's all run through the main one. Then you can return back to the main room. Because one of the things for us that we found that we'll probably be implementing for our next mastermind is that we do implementation day where basically people have access to our whole team, whether it's ad management, graphics, sales, the marketing guys, copywriting, etc. So what we did for this one is we created breakout rooms for each of our team members, and then we basically do 3 sessions throughout the day. We run in 90-minute sprints. Everyone comes in, go, cool, what do you need to get done? Everyone has 3 things. Great. First session, you want to send you over here, send you over here, send you over there. For us, what that identified is like, well, even if we're running in-person events in Perth, so we normally do 2 in the West Coast, 2 on the East Coast. If we're doing it in the East Coast, we don't have to fly our whole team over now. All I need to do is get everyone onto Zoom. We have the breakout room set. So for me, like we've only just started doing it where we've put our whole team available to everyone. But now it's like, I don't need to send everyone over to an event and take everyone off for 3 days, and which we're thinking about, and we're like, oh, this is not going to be viable. But now we can run our whole event. We can record it. If anyone wants to tune in, like we can sell digital tickets to our mastermind. Then they can jump into a digital room where then we can distribute that out to our team, where they can work with people on whatever it is their key topics they need to. And then we can bring everyone back in. But our team doesn't have to leave the office. They can do that all digitally. So for us, I was like, well, if we didn't have the current situation, we didn't have to adapt, we probably wouldn't have even thought of that or come up with that idea or figured, and Zoom probably wouldn't have even built that option out. So it's been quite interesting for that to pop up and see what we can kind of benefit out of it as well.
Yeah, nice. Good stuff. Excellent. So the next thing I'd like to speak about with you is certified ballers. This is how I actually found you with CBL Live, and it was an amazing event. So what was the intention of putting that together? Was that more of an awareness and value-driven thing, or was that a money-making concept for you?
If it was a money-making concept, we failed tremendously. But no, it's for me. This is the second one. So we did one earlier. We did one June last year, so June 2019. We had about 30 people there. And that was really good, and it was profitable. But we wanted to make impact, because one of the things that I found is, and it was two things out of personal frustration. Number one, there was a big social media event happening in Perth, and I didn't get invited, and it kind of just annoyed me and frustrated me. My ego took a big smack, and I was like, well, I think I know social media reasonably well, as do some of the people that I know, and none of us got invited or put on stage. And I was like, well, and we're all speakers as well. So I was like, people that I know and myself, if we didn't get put on stage at this event, to me, that indicated something weird, because we're like in Perth, I would consider the people that I'm thinking of and talking about like as leaders in the field. So if we're not there, to me, I don't think that's necessarily going to be, not that it's a bad event, but I don't think it's going to be a good event, because we would add tons of value. And we did, and I even reached out and I was like, hey, if you have any spots available, like, I wouldn't, like, I normally charge a speaking fee if I do, so I'm not going to charge anything. I'd love to come and add tremendous value if you've got a spot available. They're like, nah, sorry, don't need anyone like you. I was like, okay, really? No worries.
They're lost.
Yeah, so I was like, well, number one, I'm going to do my own event then, right? For you guys. But number two is, like, I used to get, I still do go and speak at a lot of events, and there was one that kind of tapered out, I would say, or padded out, and I didn't get to go and speak there. And again, I was like, well, it frustrated me, but then I was like, well, why am I frustrated? So I like speaking to big crowds. I had a big crowd. I was like, well, if you like that, why don't you go and do it yourself? Like, why are you relying on someone else? Like, that doesn't make any sense. And I was like, oh, well, yeah, why don't we do it ourselves? So we decided to then put on, that's when we did the first one. Then we're like, look, that worked. Let's do another, and let's make it bigger and better. Let's bring in Mark Boris. Let's bring in like everyone that I know that can provide massive value to people. Let's pull it up. And look, some things worked, some things didn't. Definitely was not anyone that sees events like that, and sometimes they see some of our ticket prices and whatnot, they're like, oh, that's kind of expensive. It's like, if you only knew the costs that go into it without even putting in the actual marketing cost of it, which we spent a chunk of Facebook ads spend on. Yeah. But it's like, you've got some speakers need to be paid, and need to be paid a lot. So the venue needs to be paid, the food needs to be paid, the AV, you have a little booklet to write on. You know, some places, if you just want a pad of pen and paper, it will cost you $10 a head. You want a cup of coffee for people to have at morning tea, cost you $5 per head per break. Like, all these things, and you have hundreds of, like, 150 people there. Those costs get astronomical. Mm-hmm. And so for us, we also were contractually obliged with our keynote not to sell anything. That was part of the deal. So for us, when we did that, it's like, cool, well, we have to charge a reasonable fee for people to come in, because we can't, like, we could have done it, and then I could have gone on and done a pitch and all that sort of stuff. But for me also, number one, I like having events where you can just speak to people, and it's like, cool, and because I suck at stage selling, I've got many friends that are much better at it, that could have probably got to sold something and took a commission from them or something. But I just wanted to give everyone as much value as we could, hang out with cool people, make it fun, so that next time people are like, well, look, I want to go back there, because these guys aren't just ramming stuff down my throat. They're giving actual value, which warrants the price that people can, you know, are going to pay for a ticket because it's, you know, and bringing something cool to Perth, because most of the time if I go to an event, I got to fly to the East Coast.
Yep.
All right. Like it's not easy to find good stuff in Perth. So that's why I was like, well, I live here, even though I travel a lot to the East Coast and I speak a lot over there, I want to bring cool stuff back to Perth because it's a great city. And it's like I flew speakers in literally as well. That's not like, you know, everyone's like, oh, these people came from the East Coast. It's like, yeah, some, well, I had to get them there. Like, it's not just that they, with the goodness of their heart, they just jump on a plane and fly over and they pay their own accommodation and meals. It's like, no, there's a lot of work that goes into getting them to come over. So for us, we just wanted to do that and build awareness, build brand, especially in Perth, and kind of make a bit more of an impact. And then, you know, we just, if people want to work with us, that's cool. Like I wrote a sales letter that I put in an envelope and said, cool, if you want to find out how you can, like, read the letter, if you want to find out about what we do and how we can help you. If you do, cool. If not, that's cool as well. But, you know, we didn't go into it thinking we were going to make tons of sales on the back end. We just wanted to bring something cool to Perth and make a bit more of an impact.
Yeah, well, you definitely brought something cool to Perth. I mean, I had a wicked weekend, connected with so many people that I was just totally unaware even existed. You know, like the speakers were great, but then the people I was sat on the table with, we all connected really well, and the energy in the room was brilliant as well. So I think you did an excellent job.
No, thank you.
So from the first idea of you thinking you were going to set it up to actually running the first CBL, what was the time frame in that?
It was a few months because we were going to actually run it originally in January, and I can't remember, something came up in January that meant we couldn't. Can't remember what it was, but yeah, so it was originally going to be run in January, and then we pushed it back, and then I was like, cool, let's do it in June. And then I think we started promotion like 2 or 3 months out before that, and started selling tickets into it. And so we only wanted 30, and we sold it out. So we had 30 ticket sales and 35 people in the room, including our team. So that was cool. So that kind of worked. And then as soon as we secured it and we had sold out, I was like, cool, what are we going to do for CBL2? And then my general manager, she's like, we haven't even run the first one yet, and you're thinking about that. I was like, well, when the first one finishes, I want to tell them about the next one. And then she's like, oh, whatever, you figure it out. So I was like, cool. So I started reaching out to people, reaching out to and that's when I reached out to Mark Boris and his team. And I was like, cool, like, what's it going to be like? How's it going to work? Can we get, and I got feedback and confirmation that he was available. We hadn't signed the contract yet. And then the CBL 1 happened, and I was like, cool. I was like, guys, CBL 2 is happening. If you want to come, we'll give you an awesome price for tickets and stuff. What we'll also do is we're going to bring out Mark Boris, and I'm going to bring out a whole bunch of cool people. I didn't know who I was going to bring out at the time. And I was like, there'll be heaps of cool people speaking, 150 people, going to do 2 days. First one was 1 day. It's going to be epic. This is what's coming. And then, we had a handful of people at the first one buy tickets to the second, which was cool. And then I was like, great, now we need to start selling tickets to what we need to get confirmations. We need to start locking stuff in, getting deposits sorted. So it was hectic from there. So that was June. And then obviously we ran it in the end of Feb. So as soon as we had known, like, that was, before we even finished the first one, I already kind of planned out the second one. Yeah.
And now you've already planned the third one too.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, I even did have a date, but because of everything that's happened, I was like, oh, we've kind of had to tentatively go. I don't know when we're going to do it. Like, we're going to do something in March, April, is our goal. And once everything kind of opens up in the next couple of weeks, I'll be probably securing something. But yeah, it's going to be it'll be equally as good, if not better. And then I just got to put together an adjusted speaker roster and figure out what we want to do and all that sort of stuff. And then we'll be going hard on it again. So, but we're also putting it in April gives us a bit of extra time so we can properly launch marketing into August and then push through towards the end of the year.
Yeah. And I suppose it gives us time to get through the sort of different times that we're in at the minute, because although they're starting to release some of the restrictions or relax some of the restrictions, anything can happen in the next 6 months. They could put them restrictions back on if we have another outbreak. So yeah, it's a good idea to do it like that. So do you feel when you commit to something like you did, so when you finished number 1 and you already had number 2 there, do you think that commitment to everybody else drove you to get the result and get it put together in the time frame that you had?
Well, yeah. And I mean, like as soon as we put it out there, it's like you don't want to be someone who says that they're bringing out Mark Boris and doing all this stuff and then like has to cancel or has to refund tickets and stuff. So I was like, well, we're doing it either way. Like we'll make if we can't find a way, we'll make a way. So it's going to happen. But I didn't know exactly how it would, but I just knew like, cool, if we decide and we're going to go for it and we do go for it and we put in the effort into it, you know, and actually go hard, there's no reason why we can't have it to be super successful. So that was just my focus. It was like, cool, let's commit to it and let's do it. It was scary as, and I was like, very nearly not signing the contract to get Mark on. I was like, what if we do it just without Mark? And I was like, I've already told people he's coming.
Yeah.
And I was like, it's probably one of the largest contracts I've had to sign. It is, apart from buying a house, like it's the largest contract I've had put in front of me for something. And I'm like, stomach kind of churning. I was like, fine. I was like, get out of my face. I don't want to know about it now. Have to get it done and dusted. But it was, it was an interesting one for sure.
Yeah, I think I don't know the exact cost, but for me, it was money well spent. I mean, Mark's content was brilliant.
Yeah, he did a great job. So yeah, it was definitely good times.
Yeah. You've also had Mark on your podcast as well, the Kim Barrett Show.
Yeah, that was part of my negotiation. I was like, if I'm bringing you out here, I'm gonna have you on my podcast as well. Like, I had every speaker that came on the podcast as part of like the kind of leading promotion as well, which was really cool. So they were all gave really good value. I think I only missed out on one or two, and that was only because I had a last minute speaker change. Because one couldn't get over. So we had to kind of adjust that. So there was only one person that spoke that I didn't get to have on the podcast, but the rest were all on there, which was awesome.
Yeah, cool. And you've also had some other big guests on there, Chef Pete Evans.
Yeah, that was cool. I was really stoked with that.
I was like, wow, that is wicked.
Yeah.
Was he easy to get on, or was there a bit of negotiation needed there?
I mean, look, it was easy to get on. It was hard to tee up, though. Hard to tee up at the right times and things like that. And, you know, like I've got a few other people that I've been and it's just consistency and follow up. It's just like I've had to go, cool, I had to follow up a lot to try and make it happen. But then as well, I kind of had an option earlier to get him on, but I wasn't available. And I was like, cool, if I have anyone like this that I need to get on, and they give me a time option or availability, I've just got to take it because I don't know when it's going to pop up again. Yeah. So then I had another one on. So I had just recently recorded one with Justin Dry from the CEO of Vinomofo. He was again, it was like hard to get on and follow up. And as soon as he said, I can do this time, I was like, cool, done, locked in. Like I move everything around, have to have it because it's like you never know when the next opportunity is going to pop up.
Yeah. I think you probably had the best opening to any podcast ever with Grant Cardone, didn't you?
Yeah, that was pretty good. So, that was quite lucky because I already had another podcast before with a buddy of mine who runs my podcast now. We had one together, and so I was like, they're like, "Oh, do you have a podcast?" I was like, "Actually, I technically have three. So I have like this, and this." And I'll use this as the pre-launch, and then I'm also going to pump Facebook ads into it. So it'll get you guys a lot of good awareness in Australia. So I managed to lock that down. And then, opening episode, Grant Cardone. Second episode, Elena Cardone. So that was, quite stoked with that as the opening of the Kim Barrett show.
Epic, mate. And who else have you got lined up for it? Are you allowed to say?
There's one I haven't got it fully secured, and I'm hopefully it will be. It won't be recorded for a couple months though. But have you ever read the book 48 Laws of Power?
No.
By Robert Greene, or the 50th Law with 50 Cent and Robert Greene. So he is it's a pretty cool author. So through a guy that I had on my podcast, he's been able to introduce me, and fingers crossed that's like my next big guest to get on, which will be cool in hopefully in the next month or two. So just again times, and I'm like, they sent me a whole bunch of times, and it's like 2 a.m. or something like that in Perth, and I was like, look, if you can secure the time, I will do it. I'll make it happen somehow. That's
commitment. That is commitment. So who inspires you, Kim? Where do you get your inspiration from to do all these different things that you're involved in? Have you got any mentors or coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I always get tons of as much mentorship from everyone possible. I'm in like 3 mastermind groups. and things like that. But I mean, really, I always just I get inspiration and stuff from everywhere. It's like I see someone doing something cool, and I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Like I want to do something like that, and I just kind of go for it. Yeah, I do. I just look basically everywhere, and it was like funny. Like someone told me once, they're like, oh, it was another Perth guy. It's like, oh, this person thinks of you as their number one competitor or something like that. And I was like, oh, like that's cool. And I was like, I don't like, to me, like I don't look locally at competitors or anything like that. I'm like, cool, who is the best in the world? Am I doing stuff similar to them? And if I see them doing something, it's like, cool, why am I not doing something that same level? So I said to him, I was like laughing, I was like joking, I was like, well, if he's only trying to chase me, he's not going to catch up, because I'm not chasing people. Like, I'm not chasing other people in Perth. I'm chasing like who's the best in the world at many different things, and that's who I go after. Like, I don't try and become the best in Perth or the best in Australia. Like, I'm going for, it's like, how do I model and take from what people are doing that are the best in the world, and not just in my industry, like because otherwise it's like, to me, there's no such thing as competition. It's just non-consumption, right? It's like, there's many people, like there's so many business owners that need marketing help. It's like, even if I had 1% of small business owners in Perth as clients, we would be too busy. Like, I don't have the staff to facilitate that, right? It's too much. So for me, it's like, well, like there's no competition. It's just people not consuming. So I'm always looking to other industries and seeing what they're doing. How can I adapt and take some of that for me? How do I upgrade what my stuff looks like? How do I upgrade what my stuff sounds like? It's only like the second episode of the podcast. So normally I'm at home at the moment, so all my gear's in the office. But if anyone's watching, like I've got a Blue Yeti plug-in mic, right? But then one of my buddies is like, oh, cool. Like, I went and did a film day course at their studio, and they had Rode podcaster mics. They had this switcherboard, all this other sort of stuff. And they're, again, not in the same industry as me. They are completely different. And I was like, cool. Like, that's the quality of stuff I need to have. So I went and bought all of that gear. So it's like, cool. I've got literally like all the stuff to make it sound as good as possible. Yep. But if I was just looking at someone, if someone's looking at me right now, like, oh, he just uses Blue Yeti mic and uses this or this and whatever. I'm like, well, how do I get the best stuff in the world? Like, how do I have that? So it's like the best experience. Same as like when we're at CBL, it's like, cool, when people come in, how do I make it as cool as possible so that it's the best experience? Like when you watch the speakers, it's good. The recordings are done high quality. They're live switched, all that sort of stuff. So that's what I always kind of look at from that perspective as well.
Yeah, it was pretty cool when we came to the Optus Stadium and it had the CBL banner.
Yeah, the banner on the big screens. Yeah, that was cool. They kind of threw. I didn't really know what they meant. They like told us that was an inclusion. They're like, oh, we're going to give this to you as well. And I was like, cool. I have no idea what that actually is. And then when we got there, I was like, oh, this is bloody awesome. Like, this is so cool. Like, I loved it.
Probably one of the best selfies you could get, that, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what does a day in the life look like for Kim Barrett? Have you got some set routine that you go through on a morning or an evening?
Yeah, I mean, most days are pretty full on, and some are similar. Fridays is normally basically I try and do as much recording as possible. So if I'm doing content or podcasts and stuff, that's kind of my Friday. So normally after next week, it'll be kind of semi back to normal, but train in the morning, then do some study into the office, team meetings, team huddles, and then depending on the day, it's either like coaching or calls or podcasts, depending on the day, then into a one main project I want to get done for the morning, lunch, afternoon project, check in with the sales team, social media and email review, and then I'll go home and normally have sometimes one or two projects that I'll probably work on in the evening, and then try and have dinner with my partner if we can, and then and then trying to get to bed at a reasonable hour. I say try because I kind of suck a little bit at that, but because I try and get up about 5:30 at the latest, so I try and go to bed early. But some nights if something pops into my head, it's never pops into my head at 3 o'clock in the afternoon when I have my time to process. It's like 10:30, and then it's like, oh, this idea. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going to look that up. And then it's like, oh, hang on. Now it's 11:30 and I'm going to be up at 5:30. Probably not a good idea. But so I try and build my routine as best I can, but I still sometimes suck at it as well.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? I mean, I try to compartmentalize my diary so that I've got set things at set days, but things overflow, things jump in.
Yeah.
you try your best to sort of deflect the things that try and disrupt your routine, but sometimes it's hard. And like you say, it always happens when you're going to bed as well. So you'll get into bed and then you start thinking about something, and it'll be 3 hours later. You're like, wow, it's midnight. Where did that 3 hours go?
Yeah, that's crazy.
So what 3 favorite books have you read, Kim, that sort of changed your life or changed the way you thought about how you did things in business and in life in general?
One's called Breeding Gazelles by Dan Bradbury. Really good book about growing fast. So that was epic. Book called Oversubscribed by Daniel Priestley. Was really good about building up awareness, interaction, building up a process so that your business does become oversubscribed, where it's like you've got too much demand for what you can do. And then lastly, Dig Your Well Before You're Thirsty by Harvey McKay. Just talks about how you basically just give as much value as you can. Obviously the analogy is like dig a well so that you've got water even if you're not thirsty. So it's like add value, help people even when you don't need help back. So then if you do need to, put out a call and be like, hey, I need help with this, that, the call is answered.
Yeah, cool. The 3 books I've never heard of there, mate. So I'll be checking them ones out, especially the Breeding Gazelles one. That sounds pretty good.
It's an amazing book, yeah.
Yeah. So last but not least, where's your best place to eat in Perth when we're allowed to go back out and socialise again?
It's a tough one because best is a little bit ambiguous, right? It's like best, like depends on what sort of stuff. But look, there is, I will say one of my most recent favorite ones, if you're a vegan, I apologize, don't go here. But underneath Intercontinental Hotel is a restaurant called Eschewer.
Oh, yeah.
And I think it's called Eschewer, yeah. And they have I went and did my brother and I love a bit of cooking, so we went and did a tomahawk steak masterclass there, where they taught us, these guys were at CBL as well, but cheap meats. Mm-hmm. So they ran it there in conjunction with these Eschewer guys, and it's like you order basically whatever kilo, 2 kilo tomahawk, depending on how many people on the table. They cook it on a big, huge wood fire grill, and it comes out and you just basically buy some sides and stuff to go with it. Mm-hmm. And oh man, it's a great experience, especially when you can walk past and you can literally see your steak on this big, like wood fired grill, and the thing goes up and down, and it's
mouth watering thinking about this.
Yeah, it's so that's one that I definitely recommend.
Yeah, I'll be checking that out. And for the vegan friendly people out there, I'm only joking.
Well, look, actually, there's another place which is just in Subiaco, which is I'm pretty sure they can make only vegetables, or they do like veggie bowls. But for like a breakfast type or like a brunch type thing, it's called Sorganics. They do kill it, like with their own bread. You can see it getting made in the background, and like their bread is just, I always get a side of at least like just bread and butter by itself because it's just so good. But they do really nice, like they do have some like vegan veggie bowls and stuff. But like for a breakfasty type point of view, like that place is really cool. Not much space in there. It's pretty tight, but it is that's definitely a good spot as well.
Yeah, right. There's so many good places to eat now, isn't there? Someone asked me that question the other day, and I honestly could not think. I was just like, there's so many good places to eat.
Yeah, no, it's crazy at the moment, but yeah, so hopefully they all get some good traffic after everything opens up again.
Definitely. Well, Kim, thanks very much for giving us some of your time coming on the podcast today, mate. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
And I look forward to working with you soon as well, because we've just signed up to Your Social Voice to help us with our Facebook marketing. Yeah,
we're excited to help you rock it. I'm sure you got a call with the guys today, right? So
yeah.
You're in for a treat.
Excellent. Really looking forward to it.
Easy done. Cheers, my man.
Thanks again, Kim. See ya.
Thanks for tuning in to the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast with me, Neil Gibb. Please hit the subscribe button and leave me a review so that I know that I'm delivering the content that you want to hear. You can connect with me on Facebook, the Perth Entrepreneur Podcast, Instagram, Neil Gibb Pep Talk, and YouTube, Neil Gibb Perth Entrepreneur.